In a previous movie, I covered the layout of the ribbon. In this particular movie, I want to discuss the, if you like, the philosophy behind the way the ribbon works. And it actually is quite useful to gain an understanding. I remember when I was first confronted with the ribbon in Windows 2007, I wasn't sure of why it is laid out in the way it is and what is, if you like, the underlying logic behind it. Now, the underlying logic is based on the workflow. Whenever you do anything on a computer digitally, the general description for the processes that take place in those tasks is known as the workflow. And in the case of Word workflow, Microsoft looked at thousands of users to see exactly what they did in order to create a Word document. And they found roughly that most people went through the following process. They would enter and format text. They would then, having formatted and entered the text, they would add graphics and tables. So they'd put, if you like, the graphical objects onto that. They then go to a process of designing the layout of the pages and getting the document to integrate and work as a whole in terms of layout. They would then add and create table of contents and add references. They may then proof and review the document. They would then distribute and print it, and then they would save and archive. So it's not surprising with this given workflow, the actual tabs are laid out in a very similar fashion. So for example, with the home key, you actually enter and format text. These are the major formatting. This is the major formatting tab here for actually entering text. There's also alignment of text here, numbering and so on. And then as you go along, and one of the other interesting aspects of how they've laid out the workflow is the more frequent used things within a given activity within this workflow is on the left hand side. So more frequently you're likely to want to change the font. You may want to change the size of the font. You may want to make the font bold or underlined. So more frequent things are to the left hand side and less frequent things. So you're going to change styles, find and replace there at the far side of the workflow, as it were. And you'll see similarly as I go on, the next thing would be to insert. So we're now on, if you like, the second part of the workflow. We're going to insert pictures, clip arts, tables, and so on. And again, the same principle holds. The less likely the activity, the more likely it is to be on the right-hand side. It will obviously vary within the context of why you're using Word. So if you're going to be a mathematician, then this thing, adding symbols and equations will be further up this food chain. But generally speaking, this is for most people's use, left to right. Then if you go to page layout, in this particular case, you'll decide on the orientation of the page. You may want to work on particular themes, and so on. So you'll see there is a real logic to this. Then you want to go into your referencing, you want to add table of contents, you may want to insert footnotes, you may want to insert citations and so on. So you can see it all works very logically. Then you might want to, now I'll jump ahead a minute, it doesn't quite fit in with this particular workflow, but then you may want to review it. So you've got spelling and grammar and research and thesaurus this side, and then you move along here to other activities. So you can see actually you may want to then view, look at a different view, the different printouts, and you can access these in other parts of Word. But you can see it does follow a logical workflow, and if you know that, I think it's quite helpful in getting to understand the tabs and what they do, and where, if you like, the commands embedded in the tabs are actually going to be, or at least you'll make a good guess at where they're going to be. So I hope that's been useful. It's all about workflow, the design of the tab.